Hey guys, welcome back to a new type of video, and I'm going to try something a little different. So today I'm going to be giving you like my final thoughts slash like review style of video. And the first one's going to be Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster. So I've talked about this game in my last weekly report of the games I play. I just wanted to go, I guess, a little deeper into my thoughts on Bravely Default. So first things first is the story. So the story is based around 4 characters. You got Tiz, Agnes, Idea, and Ringabel. So Tiz is a village boy that is just living his life with his family, and when him and his brother are out in the fields on the outskirts of his village, his entire village gets suddenly swallowed up by this massive hole, taking his brother from him and leaving him devastated. And Tiz's goal at the beginning of the game is to reestablish and rebuild his village that was lost in the chasm that appeared. And on the other hand, we have Agnes, and she is the vestal of the wind crystal. She is basically taking care of this crystal, praying to it, and unfortunately the darkness reached the crystal and it becomes engulfed by it, and all of Agnes's acolytes that are helping her maintain the crystal perish, and she is forced to abandon the crystal, and she goes to the chasm where Tiz's village got swallowed up, and she meets this fairy, and the fairy decides to help Agnes on her quest to awaken all the crystals in the world, which there's only 4. And Tiz ends up joining her after he finds her, and he knows that she can't do it alone, so he decides to join her up with her. And then we have Idea, who is part of the Eterian army, and her father is the ruler of Eternia, and he has his own motives that he wants to make sure the crystals never awaken, because he believes if it does, something really terrible is going to happen. And Idea is just following his lead, but she soon realizes that maybe her dad and his people aren't the good guys, and Agnes and Tiz are. So she inevitably betrays her father and her people and joins the party in their quest to awaken all the crystals, because she's tired of seeing the horrors that her father's people are doing to the towns of the world. And then we have Ringabel, and Ringabel is a mysterious pervert man. So he's basically like Sanji from One Piece, where he is a womanizer and loves women and pretty much does some really creepy stuff. And what I mean he's mysterious is that he actually has lost all of his memories, and he only remembers arriving in the town that Tiz does after his village gets swallowed up. And Ringabel has this weird mysterious book with a giant D on the front of it, and it foretells everything that's going to happen along their journey. And because it says that, he ends up joining the party, and then they set off to awaken the crystal. So that's the basic premise of the story. Of course, there's twists and turns, and some things aren't how they seem, and overall the story is really good. So if you don't want to get spoiled for some of the story parts, then you can just click off right now or fast forward. And what I want to say about the spoiler is this game came out in 2015 if I'm not mistaken, and during that time multiverse style of content is starting to become mainstream, and this game does involve the multiverse. So that is something that I was actually not expecting, and it makes sense given the context of what happens after you reach a certain chapter. And I mentioned in my weekly update video is that once you reach chapter 5, and chapter 5 through 8 is all doing the exact same stuff, that is a result of the multiverse. So that is why you basically have to repeat everything over and over and over again, because not only they wanted to extend the game because it's on the 3DS, but because they wanted to make I guess an excuse for the story that makes sense, and this makes sense. And I do really like it, but I didn't like it from the gameplay perspective, but I liked it from the story perspective. And yeah, overall the story is great. The side quests actually matter because it gives you an insight and look at the lives of the people in the towns that you're in and visit. And you do get jobs as a reward for doing most of these side quests, so it is actually worthwhile going out of your way and doing all of these quests, because you face a boss, and once you beat that boss you get their asterisk, and the asterisk is the job itself. And I believe there's 20 or 21 jobs in the game, and you can gain all 20 of them except for the one before you reach chapter 6, because chapter 6 and onward is when certain side quests will finally pop up. And that's why I think you should do every side quest, because you get a lot of these other jobs, and a lot of these other jobs are actually a lot more powerful and a lot more useful for you towards the end of the game, and some of the best ones you get towards the end of the game, which is really, really cool. And by the time I reached chapter 4, I already had my party set up and how I wanted to go, and even though I was doing massive damage, I was still dying here and there, especially on the final boss fight. That was a little bit frustrating for me. And the boss fight itself is a 4-phase boss fight, but honestly, if you have a good party setup, you can probably obliterate the final boss very, very quickly, as long as you can tank his one-shot kill. And yeah, I can see why a lot of people like the story of Bravely Default now that I've experienced it in its entirety. Now when we move on to the gameplay perspective, it is a turn-based RPG, a traditional turn-based JRPG. And of course, in this game, what's the gimmick in this one is the default and braving. So braving, you basically cash in the next couple turns, but in doing so you can't go for the exact same amount of turns you cashed in. So you really have to strategically decide what to do, whether you want to brave to cash in on those turns, or default, which is basically blocking for that turn, and you bank an extra turn. But once you've actually accumulated the max amount that you can, which is the number 3, and you used 4 turns in advance, instead of going down to -4, you will go down to -1, so you are able to go the following turn. So it really is a risk and reward sort of thing. And on top of the braving and defaulting, you also have specials that once you meet certain criteria, you can unleash different specials that give you boosts and buffs that can help you really turn the tide in battle. And on top of that, you also have the summoning friends and guests. So there is a whole mechanic in this game where the village that Tiz wants to rebuild, because of that, you have a managing menu for Norende, and you can clear different areas of the village, and you can rebuild and upgrade all the places to, I think, level 11. And once you do, you get access to a bunch of items you can buy with the adventurer. The adventurer is the entity you actually save your game, and you can also buy items as well as equipment. And for early game, it seems early to mid game, it seems like those items he sells is pretty decent, but once you reach towards the end of the game, you find better stuff, but it can help you here and there. So going back to the village menu, the amount of friends or guests that you found out in the towns, because you see these apparitions that are other players' characters, and once you just walk through them, they are added to your friends list, and you can use them to rebuild Norende, and you can also summon them in battle, and you can only summon them once. So if you have a certain player character that does 9,999 damage and you use them, you're not able to use them ever again, and you continuously find apparitions throughout the towns, throughout the game, and they'll eventually overlap and replace the ones you already have if you already reached the max amount, which is 20. And you can also send your character as well to other people's worlds to help them in battle as well. So you can, help, and you can get help. And you can use the summoning at pretty much every turn as long as you have the ability to go and use that turn, because there are certain debuffs like that prevent you from using any specials, magic, or even attacking. So summoning friends can actually help you a lot when you're in a bind, which is really cool, because not only can these people that you summon attack for you, but they can actually heal your party or give you buffs as well, given what the player on the other world decide to send out, so which is nice. I tried to send out my characters out to help other people, but every time I tried to do that, the game would actually disconnect me from the server, and that's the reason why this game has an online mode, is because of the summoning mechanic in this game. So the other thing that is available in the combat in this time is you are able to speed up the combat 4 times. So if you are grinding and you don't really want to play out through the entirety of the animations of the attacking, you can fast forward and the entire battle can end within a couple of seconds, especially if you decide to use the auto battle. So that's not a new thing in any of these JRPGs. It's been done before, but in this one you can actually pre-save different attacks, and depending on what you used manually, that will be like the preset, and you can get that, copy and paste it onto I think 4 or 5 different like set slots, and you can essentially just activate that and the battles will go through without having you press any buttons. And another thing that you can do as well is have presets for all of your party members for what jobs you want them to have and what equipment and accessories you want them to have as well. So you have I think 4 or 5 slots as well, and you can just switch between them instead of manually doing it every time, which is really nice and a very welcome addition. And like I said, you can choose whatever jobs you want your characters to have, and once you unlock these jobs, you equip them, you'll change into the clothes that they're in, and once you level up the jobs to certain amounts, you get perks as well as new skills that you can use. And on top of that, these special perks can be equipped to your like perk bar, and at the start of the game you only have 1, but as you awaken each and every crystal you gain 3 more, and you can mix and match these special perks between jobs. So let's say you have the merchant job equipped, but you've leveled up the knight before you equip that merchant, you can equip the special perks from the knight job to your current job for the merchant. So you can really mix and match, and that's why it's recommended for you to level up different jobs, because different jobs have different perks, and some of the perks actually blend well with other jobs. And not only that, so when you actually have a job that you currently have, so let's say you you have merchant, but you can actually have like the main commands, like the main specials that you do with the merchant is on there already, but you can also equip like a secondary job. So like I mentioned before, knight, if you decide to have knight as your secondary job, you are able to do what the knights can do. So all their specials are available to you on top of the merchant ones. So you can literally have a bunch of different commands that you can use to attack the enemy, and that's really, really cool. And I like the way that was implemented into the game. That really gives you the scope and the sense of making these characters your own, and not every single person is gonna experience the exact same thing when they do different jobs and stuff. So that's really cool. But like I've mentioned in previous updates, that this game is pretty difficult at the start of the game because you have to indulge and random encounters, and the only way to unlock the accessory that takes away random encounters entirely is from doing the mini games. And there's 2 mini games. You have the music rhythm mini game as well as the airship mini game, and you get tokens for completing these, and you can redo the same ones over and over again or bump up the difficulty, but you don't get tokens that often. When you do it the first time, you get like 4 or 5, but in subsequent replays you only get 1, maybe not even that, and you have to complete a couple more times just to get 1. It's very tedious. So you do unlock more stages for these mini games as you progress through the story, but just know you're going to be there for a while if you want to buy everything from the merchant that does these mini games. So I just bought the 400% random encounter as well as the 0%. So there's all that, and this game does have an overworld. That's how you traverse throughout the entirety of the world, and you do have access to a regular ship and then an airship. Now, there is random encounters out in the open world, in the overworld, and there's different places you can go. That's not even part of any side quest or any main quest. If you just want to explore different dungeons, you can do that. And the dungeons are like mazes where you have different chests, and some chests actually require a key, and as far as I'm aware, you don't get the key until practically the end of the game. So I don't know if maybe the thief job is able to unlock these chests a lot earlier, but I am not completely sure. If you are aware, let me know in the comments. But yeah, it is a very impressive game. It's a very ambitious game given it was released on the 3DS, and I absolutely loved it. So I do recommend this game if you are interested in it and you've never played it before. But if you have on 3DS, it's not really worth the upgrade unless you really want 1080p visuals with cleaned up textures and 2 new mini games that add a little extra icing on top of the cake. But this game is a game key card, and I know a lot of people don't like that, but if that doesn't bother you, you can get this physically or you can just download it digitally on the eShop. But yeah, for $40, this is definitely a steal. So that is all I have to say for this final thoughts for Bravely Default. I hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.